All right, peace family. This is Super Mike. Make sure you guys press the like button, press the share. I want to go through this one real quick. Lucia woman, we want to touch on the Black identity of our Pacific Island brothers and sisters and family. How we traveled all across this planet in ancient times. We are the ancestors of the ancient times and periods. We want to debunk. We want to go through what debunking is, what evidence is, and the word science of that. We want to expose some of the huge controversy when we start making a connection that our people, that our original Aboriginal people are a planetary people and not just one continent. They want to tie the Black identity to just one continent, and then they want to define the Black identity or the Black peoples as just from one continent. And you're actually losing those Black people who are Pan-Africanists. You're actually losing. You think you're protecting something, but you're only protecting the idea that white tea has to take you across the planet. Okay, so we want to go through that. We want to say RIP and rest in power to our brother Akbar, who actually, I'm going to show something that he made some connections here and how these people are, the people in the Pacific Islands are Black in New Zealand. And so we just want to go through that and the debunking and the just, you know, just the it's a huge controversy. We really got to stay on this. All right. Peace to all my foundation Black American people.
Negroid face that has all the features that you associate with a Negroid face. The proportions of the face, it doesn't say anything about it being Mongoloid.
Luthia belongs to a race found historically along the rim of the Indian Ocean, in East Africa, in the islands of South Asia, and in Australia and Melanesia. Was this then the face of a first American? Her reconstruction is confirmed by measurements Walter Nevis has taken of all his skulls.
The first reaction was not to believe in it. But as the results, repeated so many times, and the result is exactly the same thing. They are very similar to nowadays Aborigines and Africans, and no similarity at all with Mongoloids in Asia or with American Indians.
Hear what he said? Now, this is a professor, and this man here is actually a professional. He's not a Black person. He's not a Black nationalist. He did it over and over again. He just put out the truth. This made them so angry because you got to realize that their whole thing and whole objective is to prove that Ivan Van Sertima was incorrect. Okay, so now here's this other scientist here. He's showing that this is the face of an Australoid or Negroid face, which is Black, the Aboriginal face. So now here they go. The new face, now the new face of Lucia and the Lagoa Santa people, okay? They got together. This is in November 14, 2018. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll read it later in a different one, but I need to go through this real quick. What they did is they reconstructed the face. They got 72 researchers from 8 countries. Now keep in mind, this is a global thing for you to discover that Black people were here first. They can't have that. So they got 72 researchers from 8 different countries, and so that they can prove the conclusion that the Santa people and Lucia woman was the descendant of the Clovis culture, because they want everybody to believe that all the waves of migration came from Beringia. Okay, everybody had to come from Siberia over here first. They cannot allow anybody else to think or find out anything different. They did DNA on these people. They concluded, yeah, they had connections. Okay. But then it's interesting that a couple months before this article came out that there was a fire. So they created this fire after the whole museum had closed down now. Let's see. Okay, people of America's 15 people was analyzed. Let's see. Among the 15 individuals whose DNA was analyzed, 3 of the Lagoa Santa people, 5 were found to have genetic material from Australasia. So basically, they were black. So they did have some genetic material from Australoid people, so the Pacific Islanders and stuff. And then they said it's a big conundrum how it ended up on only 5 people. So other fossils were collected during the 20th century. All right, now a vast majority of these osteological and archaeological treasures belonging to perhaps more than 100 individuals were deposited at the National Museum in Rio de Janeiro and presumably destroyed in a fire that raged through the historic building on September 2nd, 2018. Now, this thing came out 2 months after this fire, this article here. They burned all that stuff up. Now, the Lucia skull was on display in this museum. It was burnt up, and they saying that it was the remains. Now Lucia's skull was on display. Was one of the first objects to be recovered from the ruins. It had been broken up, but survived. The fire destroyed the original facial reconstruction. They destroyed it, but then they also intimated that the DNA had to be destroyed too. So do you see how deep this thing gets? You see they relentlessly attack Ivan van Sertima because he showed the heads. Now to keep in mind, and then they relentlessly, as soon as this man found that there were black people over here, his work is relentlessly attacked, and then you get a different facial reconstruction.
Yes. And I just also want to say that, for fuck's sake, man, like 80% of the Pacific is black. Like, that's what we don't know. The populations of Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu, New Caledonia, New Ireland, New Britain is massive. They're literally 80% of the Pacific. Yeah. Okay, so Polynesia is like very small in terms of the number of Melanesians there are in our Pacific. The majority of our Pacific is black. And when we say we're proud to be Pacific, it's proud to be black. And if you don't know your history, go look at a photo of the old Hawaiians, they're black.
They're black.
Look at the photos of the old Samoans, they're black. Look at the photos of the old Maori, they're black. All right, and they were called monkey. Right, so acknowledge your self-hatred, acknowledge that you maybe have some anti-blackness within you, but our ancestors are black, our people are black, get used to it. Being dark skin is beautiful. I'm so thankful for my melanin in my skin. I can absorb the sun without any bloody suntan lotion. I love it. It is not derogatory to me, but get used to it and get with the times already. It's unacceptable to say that. It's unacceptable to say the N-word, and you're gonna be called out. Okay, so, and it's easy, not like, oh, it's such a burden not to say monkey. Are you serious? You could say dickhead. You could say asshole, unless it's offensive to assholes. You know what I mean? Seriously, there's not an asshole gonna come out, hey, that's offensive to me. But seriously, there's so much that we don't need that shit. And we don't have to have that shit. There's so much option.
And it's crazy on this. These silly, a Pan-Africanist chick on TikTok told me that I told them that the South Pacific people, Pacific Islanders, they identify themselves as black people. She said, no, they're not black. They're not black. I said, they self-identify as black. She said, they spell it B-A-B-L-A-K and we spell it B-L-A-C-K. There's a difference. This is how silly these arguments connecting black to Africa are. These people are depending on a definition from an enemy, a white enemy system. Now, I'm not saying that we should not be aware of the definition of black in white America, because we are speaking English and they try to define it their way, but we have our way of defining our terms, and we can take control of that. And so black is the aboriginal people of the planet. That's how we connect black, not to a single continent of our planet. Okay.
Just
Our last part of the meeting. In 1987, I believe, or 88, I went to New Zealand. And, I traveled a lot, but I went there on a trip. I stopped in Fiji, then I went to Tahiti, and then to New Zealand. And while I was in New Zealand, I had some friends there that I had met in conferences. When you go to a conference, you meet people from all over the world. They're Maoris. The Maoris call themselves black men. They got tremendous gangs there. One gang is called the Mongol Mob, and the other is called the Black Power Gang. And these are not just children. They got young people, but these are adult men, 35 to 50. They look something like Hell's Angels, but they call themselves the Black Power Gang is the biggest. The second gang is the Mongol Mob, and they fight and kill one another. So when I got to New Zealand, my friend who was one of the Maori liberation struggles, they're trying to kick the white man out of New Zealand because he came there and conquered their land and tried to destroy all of them as a people. But they came back. And so when I got there, and I'm going to go through this quickly, so follow me. They first, the custom people were hesitant to let me in. But finally, I got through customs because the American security people called them and said that this black Muslim is coming in. He's going to create some problems for you, so watch it. So when I got there, I went on a radio show. I had done a radio show and a newspaper interview and a TV show. But on this radio show, I was explaining to the people about the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and how it started. So two people called, a lot of people called, but two people very important. One of them belonged to a group called the Ratners. And Ratner was a nationalist group that started in New Zealand, where they were trying to regain their heritage and their strength at the turn of the century. T.R. Ratner died. And the man that called in said that I think that the Ratner movement started the Nation of Islam. And one of our members went to America and started your movement. And I'm saying this because we saw a picture of your leader, Elijah Muhammad, with our sign on his head. And the star and crescent that you use is the sign of our movement. So I told the man that I'd like to meet with him at the home that I was staying off the air and talk about it. Then a gang member called. The leader of the Black Power Gang called. He said, I've been listening to this black man from America, and I want you to come over and talk to our gang. And I told him that I had to get off the air because I was going to a Juma prayer, and I was the speaker at a Juma prayer at a mosque there. And I told him to meet me at the mosque. And when I got to the mosque, this was the same afternoon, he was standing outside, leather jacket, tattooed face, awesome kind of figure. And everybody fears the gangs there. And so he said, are you this Akbar Muhammad I heard on the radio? I said, yes. He said, what is this place? I said, it's called a mosque. He said, I never heard of that. What are they doing there? I said, these people are called Muslims. Their religion is Islam. He said, I never heard of that. So he said, well, why don't you come and address our gang? We want to set up so you can talk. I heard you talking strong about the black man, and we're black people. And they look like American Indians, but they call themselves black people. So I told all praise to Allah. I said, fine, I will do that. Then that night, this man who belonged to the Ratners came. Now listen to how interesting this is. He came and he brought me pictures. And he showed me that they had the Star and Crescent. And he told me about their leader. So I said, did your leader ever travel? He said he made a trip around the world in 1898. I said, where did he go? He said he went to countries, he named some of the countries he went to. And I said, that's interesting. So I listened to him carefully, and he was sure that one of their members went to America, came to California. This is where Hirsch got this whole story from. Hirsch said that this man that they called, trying to say that he was the savior, Master Farad Muhammad, called Wallace Ford, and they showed this picture of him looking like a convict. They said that, and remember, if you remember the article in 1963, they said that his mother was from New Zealand. Right. Didn't they say that? So he said that one of our members started your group. I listened to him, I let him talk all the way out. And I said, let me tell you something, my brother. I said, I appreciate what you said. Then he gave me the ring. And their ring has a star and a crescent and their pen. So I took the sign. I said, you see the sign? And then he showed me one of their old books. Their old book had a flag just like our flag. That was their first flag. And so I began to tell him, I said, that see, what your leader got is the flag of Islam. I said that even though, you give him credit as starting, but Islam has been around a long time. I said, perhaps when your leader traveled around the world, you said he went to Egypt and Syria. And maybe when he was in Egypt and Syria, he came in contact with Muslims. And he saw the dynamic force of Islam. But he knew that you were brought up on Christianity, and he wanted to maintain the spiritual base, so he came back and gave you Islam. I said, look at the way your women dress. Their women dressed in long dresses and headpieces look just like our sisters. I said, and look at the lodges, where you meet, you call them lodges, but they have minarets that look something like a mosque. I said, in our history, there was a man named Marcus Garvey. He was born on the island of Jamaica. He went to England, and he worked in a shop in England with a Muslim named Mohammed Deuce. He was a Palestinian. This Palestinian taught him Islam and gave him the feel of nationalism. Marcus Garvey had a love of his people, and he went back to teach, but he didn't teach them Islam because he felt that they couldn't accept it. So in the UNIA, he knew that they needed a spiritual base. So he let Christianity continue, but at the base of his thinking was Islam. And I told the man, I said, I think that T.R. Ratner did the same thing. I said, no, one of your members didn't start the Nation of Islam. I said, you may have heard that lie that Hearst Press put out to try to stop the Nation of Islam in 1963 because of its tremendous influence in the black community. I said, but our Savior came from the holy city of Mecca, and he established Islam among black people in North America. And from that, Sister Tynetta went back to New Zealand and was able to teach this people. So I'm saying that it shows you the influence and the power of Islam. Even though they don't have the name on it of what it has a power and an influence in society, and it has influenced those people in New Zealand. So it is in North America today. There are many brothers and sisters who are out there in the street who are not here in the mosque with you.
All right, guys, that's all. That's the second part of all black people are not African. All black people are not African. Black people are aboriginal to the planet Earth. Okay, to my Pan-African black people, doesn't mean you're evil. Just because we disagree on something doesn't mean FBA or everybody else is evil. Okay, but there's a disagreement, we can deal with that. to all my other Native Americans and the Mexicans and other Aboriginals and indigenous people. If you feel threatened, you shouldn't feel threatened, but the only thing that's going to be threatened is the white supremacist narrative. Okay, that's the only thing that's threatened. Just because black people are Aboriginal doesn't mean you're not Aboriginal or indigenous. That has nothing to do with you, but it's the narrative. So, all right, press the thumbs up, like button. Go ahead, put your thoughts in the chat, spread the message. Peace.